That night, the train was moving through an isolated region in western Texas. The moon, big and full, hung in the starry sky like a distant beacon, casting a cold light over the deserts and canyons. It was a scene that seemed taken from a nightmare, and I was the only passenger in the last carriage of that solitary train. The carriage had an air of abandonment, as if it had been forgotten by time. The seats were torn, and the floor creaked under my steps as I made my way to a broken window. Outside, the darkness was impenetrable, but I could sense something lurking in the vastness of the desert. Suddenly, the train screeched to a halt. I stood up, confused, and looked out the window. There was no sign of life in sight, only the vastness of the desert and the moon shining like an unrelenting eye. I decided to exit the carriage to investigate the cause of the stop. As I stepped onto the platform, the cold wind blew and enveloped me like a cold sheet. The train loomed like an iron beast in the middle of nowhere. It was then that I saw a solitary figure in the distance. It was a man, dressed in rags and moving towards me with an inhuman slowness. His face was hidden in the shadow of his tattered hat.
"Do you need help?"
I asked, feeling a chill run down my spine. The man didn't respond. He kept advancing, his steps dragging and uneven, as if he were a specter of the desert. I began to retreat towards the carriage, but the man kept moving towards me, his shadow lengthening in the moonlight. When he finally reached the moonlight, I could see his face. It was a countenance ravaged by time and agony, with empty eyes that seemed to contain darkness itself. Without a word, the man extended a bony, cold hand towards me. Instinctively, I stepped back, but it was already too late. His hand touched me, and a wave of terror flooded over me. I fell to the ground, feeling my mind tearing apart like a piece of paper. When I woke up, I was alone again in the last carriage. The train had continued on its way. The moon still shone with its cold and relentless light, and I knew that something dark and ancient had haunted me that night.